My name is Naomi Carter. I'm 27, and the night my boyfriend asked for freedom, he really thought he was asking me to freeze my life until he got bored enough to come back. At the time, I didn't understand that. I only knew I was sitting across from a man I had loved for 3 years in our favorite taco place with a notebook full of furniture measurements in my purse and a half-finished conversation about curtain colors hanging between us. 3 weeks earlier, I had put down a deposit on the apartment we were supposed to move into together. It wasn't some reckless fantasy. It felt earned. Evan Patterson was 25, funny in a dry, disarming way, and the kind of man who could make an ordinary room feel warmer the moment he stepped into it. We met at a friend's game night and clicked so fast it embarrassed both of us. 1 minute, we were arguing over a ridiculous card prompt. The next, we were lingering in the kitchen while everyone else had already started another round without us. For 3 years, we survived the things people warn you will break couples apart. His final year of college, my job transfer, a 6-month stretch of long distance when his internship pulled him 2 states away, late night calls, cheap flights, missed anniversaries made up for with grocery store flowers and takeout on the floor. We had real history, the kind that makes you stop imagining people in your future because one person already lives there. That Thursday night, I thought we were talking about our future the way we always had. Casually, imperfectly, but together. Then Evan put his fork down. Not hard, not dramatic, just enough for my body to register a shift before my mind caught up. Naomi, we need to talk. My stomach dropped. Nobody ever says that before they change your life in a good way. I tried to smile anyway. That sounds terrifying. He gave a small laugh, but it died quickly. He reached for his water, turned the glass once against the table, then looked at me with a nervousness that didn't match the room, the food, or the apartment sketches between us. I've been thinking, he said, a lot. That was when I felt it, the first cold thread of dread. I stayed still. About what? He exhaled slowly. About us. About where this is going. The restaurant noise kept moving around us. Plates clinked. Someone laughed too loudly near the bar. A server passed with a tray of drinks. It felt almost offensive that everything still looked normal when my life had just started tilting. What do you mean? I asked. He rubbed the back of his neck, eyes slipping away from mine. I'm 25, Naomi. I waited. I've only been with 3 women, he continued, including you. And lately I don't know. I feel like I'm missing things, missing experiences. For a second, I genuinely didn't understand him. My brain caught the words, but refused the meaning. Experiences, I repeated. He nodded, encouraged now that he'd started. Yeah, we're moving so fast. Apartment, then probably engagement, then marriage, kids, the whole thing. And He gave a helpless shrug. I'm too young to be tied down. The words landed softly. That was the worst part. He didn't shout. He didn't sound cruel. He used that careful, reasonable tone people hide behind when they want to wound you and still look like the good person in the room. I stared at him. Tied down, I said. We're moving in together, Evan. We're not walking into a chapel tomorrow. But that's the path, right? He pressed. That's where this leads. I could feel my face cooling over. Not from calm, from something sharper. The kind of hurt that arrives so cleanly, it almost feels elegant. So what are you actually saying? He swallowed. I think I need space to explore my options, to see what else is out there. There it was. Not confusion, not depression, not fear, not a real incompatibility he'd been wrestling with in silence. He wanted other women, and he wanted me to sit there and help him package it as growth. I leaned back in my chair and folded my hands in my lap, because if I touched the table, I thought I might flip it. So, I said carefully, you want to break up so you can date around? His expression tightened, offended by my clarity. That's a harsh way to put it. Is it the wrong way? He didn't answer immediately, which was answer enough. Then, as if this would make me understand, he reached for my hand. I pulled mine back before he could touch it. His fingers hovered in the air for a second, then fell away. It doesn't have to be ugly, he said softly. We can stay friends. And who knows, maybe after I've had time to figure myself out, maybe after I've had some fun and lived a little, we can find our way back to each other. I actually heard the blood rushing in my ears. He kept going, not realizing each sentence made him smaller. You are the kind of woman a man settles down with, Naomi. You really are. You're wife material, just not yet. Wife material. Not yet. I don't think I will ever forget the humiliation of sitting there in that warm yellow light, surrounded by couples and birthday dinners and ordinary life, while the man I had loved for 3 years calmly explained that I was perfect for later, like a coat he could hang up, like a house he could keep in mind, like something solid and valuable he assumed would still be waiting when he got tired of chasing novelty. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said very quietly, "If you leave to explore, we are done permanently." He blinked. Then he laughed. "Naomi, don't be dramatic." That laugh did something to me. Something clean. Something final. "People take breaks all the time," he added. "This doesn't have to be forever." "This is not a break," I said. "You are ending a 3-year relationship so you can sleep with other women and circle back when it stops being exciting. That's not a pause. That's a choice." He sighed, as if I were making this difficult. "I know you're upset, but you'll understand eventually. I really think we're meant to be together. I just need to get this out of my system first." That sentence stripped the last illusion away. He didn't only want freedom. He expected loyalty in return. He expected me to absorb the humiliation, preserve the place he was leaving, and call that love. I reached into my bag, pulled out cash, and set it on the table for my half of dinner. His face changed then, just a little, enough to show he hadn't expected me to move so quickly. "Naomi." "Explore away, Evan." He sat there, startled. I stood up, slid my chair in, and looked at him one last time. "I hope you find exactly what you're looking for," I said. Then I walked out before he could turn my pain into a conversation. The night air hit me hard outside the restaurant. I stood on the sidewalk for a few seconds, holding myself together by force. Traffic moved past in white and red streaks. Somewhere behind me, a group came out laughing. Someone said goodnight, a car door slammed, and I remember thinking how indecent it was that the world had the nerve to keep moving. I didn't cry there. I waited until I got into my car. Even then, it wasn't the kind of crying people imagine. Nothing cinematic, no screaming, no collapse over the steering wheel. Just tears falling in absolute silence while my hands stayed locked at 10 and 2, as if letting go of anything would make everything come apart. By the time I got home, the grief had already started hardening into logistics. I called the landlord first. We were going to lose money on the deposit because Evan hadn't signed anything yet. $500, gone in one conversation. The landlord apologized. I told him it was fine. It wasn't fine, but it was still cheaper than tying myself legally to a man who thought commitment was a waiting room he could leave and re-enter whenever he wanted. After that, I blocked Evan everywhere. Phone, text, Instagram, Facebook, email. Not theatrically, not with speeches, just one quiet decision after another. He wanted to explore. He could do it without me watching from the sidelines. Later, lying awake in the dark, I replayed every second of that dinner until the truth finally rose above the hurt. The breakup wasn't the insult. The insult was the confidence. The confidence that I would still be there. The confidence that he could place me on a shelf, labeled future, and come back for me when he was done sampling the world. I should have known then that a man arrogant enough to think like that would not handle rejection with grace. At the time, though, all I knew was this. I had loved him honestly. He had treated that honesty like storage. And if I ever let him back into my life, it would not be because I still loved him. It would be because I had forgotten how deeply he enjoyed underestimating me. If there's one thing I learned in the 2 months after Evan walked out of my life, it's this. Silence doesn't mean peace. Sometimes it only means the storm is gathering somewhere you can't see yet. For a while, I actually believed it was over. No calls, no messages, no late-night apologies, no drunk texts, nothing. Just absence. And I took that as permission to rebuild. I filled my time the way people tell you to after a breakup, except I didn't do it performatively. I wasn't posting glow-up photos or writing vague captions about healing. I just lived. I joined a recreational volleyball league with coworkers. I signed up for a coding certification my company offered, something I had been putting off for over a year. I stayed late at work without guilt. I stopped structuring my evenings around someone else's schedule. Slowly, without announcing it to anyone, my life started to feel like mine again. I got promoted to team lead 6 weeks after the breakup. Not because I was suddenly more talented. Because I wasn't spending half my energy maintaining a relationship with someone who saw me as something to return to later instead of someone to choose now. It was quiet progress, the kind that doesn't look dramatic from the outside, but feels like oxygen when you've been suffocating. Then the messages started. Not from him, from them. The first one came from an unknown number. "Hey, Naomi, it's Tessa. Can we talk? Evan is really struggling." I stared at the screen for a full 10 seconds. Tessa, his best friend. The one who used to sit across from me at brunch and ask about my work like she genuinely cared. The one who had once said, "You're the best thing that's ever happened to him." I deleted the message without replying. 5 minutes later, another one arrived. "He misses you. A lot. I think you made a mistake." I blocked the number. No hesitation, no explanation. Because something about the phrasing made my stomach turn. Not he hurt you, not you deserve better. Only he's struggling. As if I were supposed to feel responsible for the consequences of a decision he made with full confidence. 2 days later, it escalated. I got a message on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, of all places. Hi, Naomi. Hope work is going well. Random question. Are you planning to attend Brent's birthday this weekend? Evan mentioned you two are just taking some space, but he really misses you. Nora, his older sister. I actually laughed out loud when I read it. Taking some space. As if I were on vacation from my own life. As if the breakup had been mutual. As if I hadn't sat across from her brother while he calmly explained that he wanted to sleep with other women and come back when he was done. I didn't respond. But something shifted in me then. This wasn't confusion. This was narrative control. He wasn't just gone. He was already rewriting the story. Then came the coincidences. The first time, it was the coffee shop near my office. I had just picked up my usual order when I heard my name. Naomi, oh wow, what are the odds? I turned. Evan, standing there like he had just stumbled into me by accident, as if he hadn't memorized my routine over 3 years of dating. I gave him a flat look. Pretty high, considering you know I come here every morning. He smiled awkwardly, like I was being unreasonable. I mean, I come here too. Since when? I asked. You used to complain their coffee tasted burnt. He shrugged. People change. I held his gaze for a second longer than necessary. Exactly. Then I turned and walked out. The second time was at the grocery store. The third was at the bookstore I went to every Saturday afternoon. By the third coincidence, I didn't bother pretending. Do you want me to write down my weekly schedule for you? I said, not stopping my cart. Or are you just going to keep showing up until I get the message? His face tightened. I'm not stalking you, Naomi. Then stop acting like you are. I didn't wait for a response. But the part that got to me most wasn't only him. It was the updates. Mutual friends, casual conversations, offhand comments that landed like knives. Evan's been going out a lot lately. He's in his fun phase, I guess. Saw his Instagram, new girl every week. Vegas trip with someone he met on a dating app. Living his best life, apparently. I never asked, but somehow the information found me anyway. And every time it did, I felt the same strange, hollow sensation. Not jealousy, something closer to confirmation. Because this wasn't about him being confused, lost, or trying to find himself. He had known exactly what he wanted. Variety. Freedom, options. And the worst part was that he seemed to believe he could come back from all of that untouched and find me exactly where he left me. By the end of the second month, I realized something that surprised even me. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. Not in a dramatic, I hate you forever way. More like closing a book you once loved and realizing you don't need to reread it. And that was when he came back. Not through a message. Not through a friend. He was sitting on the floor outside my apartment door when I got home from volleyball practice. My hair still damp from a quick shower at the gym, my bag slung over my shoulder, my keys already in my hand. He stood up the second he saw me. For a moment, my chest tightened, because he looked different. Not polished, not confident, not like the man who had sat across from me 2 months earlier and calmly explained that I was wife material, just not yet. He was wearing an old hoodie. My hoodie, the one he used to steal from me in college and never gave back. It hung slightly loose on him now, sleeves pushed up, hands restless. Naomi, he said. My name sounded strange in his voice, like it didn't belong to him anymore. I walked past him. No. He stepped forward quickly. Please, just 5 minutes. I unlocked my door, pushing it open just enough to step inside. You had 3 years, I said without looking at him. The door was halfway closed when his hand caught it. Not aggressively, just enough to stop it from shutting. I made a mistake. I paused. Not because I believed him. Because I wanted to hear how he was going to say it. Slowly, I turned back. He looked at me like he was rehearsing every word in real time. I thought I needed to explore, he said. I thought I needed options. I dated, I went out, I did everything I said I wanted to do. I didn't say anything. I just watched him. And you know what I realized? His voice cracked slightly. None of it meant anything. None of those girls were you. None of it felt right. You're the one I want, Naomi. You always were. For one brief, dangerous second, I remembered who he used to be to me. Then I remembered who he had shown himself to be. I let out a soft breath. You're the one I want, I repeated. Now. He flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? I tilted my head. You literally told me I was perfect for later, that you wanted to go try everything else first and then come back. That's not what I meant. That is exactly what you meant. His jaw tightened. I thought you'd understand. There it was. The truth. Not hidden. Not softened, just sitting there between us like it had always been obvious. I thought you'd wait, he said quietly. Something inside me went completely still. You thought I'd wait, I repeated. We had 3 years, Naomi, he said, stepping closer. That doesn't just disappear. I knew you'd still be here. Still be here, like I was a place, not a person. I looked at him for a long moment. Then I said calmly, I'm seeing someone. It was a lie, a clean, deliberate lie. But the effect was immediate. His face changed. What? I've moved on, I said, just like you wanted. I didn't want you to move on, he snapped. Of course he didn't. He wanted freedom without cost, choices without loss. I wanted you to be there when I came back. And that was the moment everything became crystal clear. Not only what he did, who he was. I stepped back fully into my apartment. Go home, Evan. He didn't move. I'll wait, he said, sitting back down against the wall. You'll realize this is a mistake. We're meant to be together. I stared at him for a second. Then I pulled out my phone and called building security. 10 minutes later, 2 guards escorted him out while he argued about love and second chances as if this were some romantic movie instead of a mess he had created himself. I closed the door, locked it, leaned back against it. For the first time since the breakup, I didn't feel sad. I felt certain. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The next morning, I woke up to silence, the kind that feels like something is about to happen. At 9:17 a.m., I got a call from reception. Naomi, there's a man here asking for you. I froze for half a second. What's his name? A pause. He says he's your boyfriend. Of course he did. I closed my eyes briefly, then exhaled. That's not correct. I'll be right down. When I stepped into the lobby, I already knew what I'd see. Evan stood near the front desk, holding a paper bag from the sandwich shop we used to go to every Friday. The same one where he once told me I made his life feel stable. He smiled when he saw me, like this was normal. Hey, he said softly, you forgot your lunch. The receptionist looked between us, confused. I didn't even slow down as I walked toward them. He's my ex, I said calmly, and he's not allowed to be here. Evan's smile faltered. Naomi, come on. Please have him removed, I said to security. There was a flicker of something in his eyes then. Not sadness, not regret. Shock. As if he genuinely hadn't considered this outcome. As if rejection was something that happened to other people. Don't do this, he muttered as security stepped in. We just need to talk. We're done talking. I turned and walked away while they escorted him out, feeling dozens of eyes on my back. By the time I reached my desk, my manager was already waiting. Everything okay? She asked quietly. I met her gaze, steady. Ex-boyfriend who doesn't understand what ex means. She studied me for a second, then nodded. Let me know if you need HR involved. I will. And I meant it, because something had shifted. This wasn't awkward anymore. It was invasive. That afternoon, the flowers arrived. A huge arrangement of white roses and lilies, the kind that screams apology without actually saying the word. The card read, For my soulmate, always yours. E. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I picked it up, walked it straight to the break room, and set it on the table. Anyone want flowers? I asked. The admin team lit up instantly. Within seconds, the arrangement was being divided, repurposed, laughed over. I didn't explain. I didn't need to. That night, the social media campaign started. New accounts, blank profiles, no photos. But the comments were unmistakable, under a picture I had posted 2 years ago. Remember this night? You said it was the happiest you'd ever been. Another one. Funny how people pretend to move on when they're still in love. Then came the tagging. Old photos, mutual friends' posts, anything that could connect my name to his again. I blocked every account. He made new ones. I stopped checking. Then he escalated again. A mutual friend sent me a screenshot the next morning. Evan had posted a long caption on Instagram. Black background, white text. Sometimes pride costs you the love of your life, but real love doesn't just disappear. I stared at it, expressionless. Because this wasn't about love. It was about control. He was rewriting the narrative again, painting himself as the one who lost something precious instead of the one who threw it away. My phone buzzed. Another message. Not from him. From my mother. Sweetheart, can you call me? Something strange just happened. My chest tightened. I stepped into an empty conference room and called her immediately. Mom! Her voice came through, hesitant. Naomi, Evan just called me. Of course he did. What did he say? He was crying, she said. He said you two had a fight, that you won't forgive him, that you're shutting him out. I didn't understand. I thought everything was fine between you. I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes. He broke up with me, I said quietly. 2 months ago. He wanted to explore his options. Silence. Then, you're joking. I wish I was. Another pause. So let me get this straight, she said slowly. He left you to date other women, and now he's calling me because you won't take him back? Yes. The silence that followed felt different, heavy, grounded. Then my mother sighed. "Oh, hell no." I blinked. "What?" "I liked that boy," she continued. "I really did, but absolutely not. You do not get to treat my daughter like a placeholder and then cry about it when she closes the door." A small, unexpected warmth spread through my chest. "I didn't tell him anything," she added, "just that he should stop calling me." "Thank you. Are you okay?" I looked out through the glass wall at the office beyond. "I am," I said. And for the first time, it wasn't something I was forcing. "I really am." We hung up. I thought that would be the end of that. I was wrong. The next day, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. Then another, and another. By the third one, I answered. "Hello?" A sharp inhale on the other end. Then a voice, tight with anger. "How dare you?" I frowned. "Excuse me?" "This is Mrs. Patterson," she snapped, "Evan's mother." "Of course." "How dare you turn your mother against my son? Do you have any idea what you've done to him?" I leaned back in my chair, suddenly very tired. "Your son made a choice," I said evenly. I responded to it. "He made a mistake," she shot back. "One mistake, and you're destroying his life over it?" "One mistake?" I repeated. He ended a 3-year relationship to sleep with other people and expected me to take him back. Silence. Then, colder. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said quietly. "I'm being clear." "He loved you," she insisted. I let out a slow breath. "No, he loved the idea that I'd still be available when he decided he was ready." Her tone sharpened instantly. "You'll regret this. He was the best thing that ever happened to you." I almost laughed. "Then why did he leave?" "Nothing. Only silence." "Please don't contact me again," I added. "This includes calling from different numbers." Her voice dropped, venomous. "You're a cold, heartless woman." "No," I said. "I'm a woman who knows her worth." And I hung up. After that, the calls didn't stop. Different numbers, different times. Sometimes silence, sometimes breathing, sometimes his voice. "I know you're home. I saw you with that guy from your office. You can't replace what we had." Each message was more unhinged than the last. Each one got saved, documented, cataloged. Because by then, I understood something important. This wasn't going to resolve itself. This wasn't heartbreak. It was escalation. So I started building a file. Screenshots, voicemails, dates, times, locations. Every coincidence that wasn't one. Every unwanted message. Every attempt to force himself back into my life. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was preparing. 3 nights later, everything exploded. I went on my first real date since Evan. Not a rebound. Not a distraction. A normal evening with someone who hadn't already decided I was optional. His name was Daniel. We met through the coding program at work. Quiet confidence, dry humor, the kind of man who listened all the way through when you spoke. No performance, no pressure, just presence. We chose a small Italian restaurant downtown. Soft lighting, low music, the kind of place where conversations don't need to compete to exist. For the first time in months, I wasn't thinking about the past. I was simply there. Daniel was telling me about a failed startup idea he once had, something about an app that never quite found its audience, and I caught myself laughing. Real laughter, not the polite kind. Then his expression shifted, just enough to make my stomach tighten. "What?" I asked. He hesitated. "There's a man at the bar." I followed his gaze, and everything inside me went cold. Evan, standing near the bar, wearing the dark red shirt I bought him for our 2nd anniversary. Of course he was. He didn't wave. He didn't smile. He just lifted his glass slightly, like a toast, and started walking toward us. I didn't move. I didn't flinch. I didn't look away. Because I wasn't going to give him that. "Naomi," he said when he reached the table, like we were meeting for dinner. "Leave," I said. Calm, flat, final. He ignored me. Instead, he turned to Daniel and offered his hand like this was a social introduction. "I'm Evan," he said, "Naomi's boyfriend." Silence. Then I corrected him. "X." His smile tightened, but he didn't back down. "Temporary," he added smoothly. Daniel didn't take his hand. He didn't even look at it. He leaned back slightly in his chair and studied him. Then, to my surprise, he laughed. Not loud, not cruel, just honest. "Wow," Daniel said. "This is actually happening." Evan's eyes snapped to him. "Excuse me?" Daniel met his gaze evenly. "I don't know what your situation is," he said, "but showing up uninvited to a restaurant and interrupting someone's date isn't romantic. It's kind of sad." The word landed harder than anything I could have said. Evan's jaw tightened instantly. "You don't know anything about us," he snapped. "I know enough," Daniel replied calmly. "She asked you to leave." I felt something shift inside me then. Not fear, relief. Because for the first time since all of this started, I wasn't alone in seeing it for what it was. Evan turned back to me, frustration bleeding through his voice. "Naomi, you're really going to do this? With him?" I didn't raise my voice or match his energy. Yes, I said simply, I am. Something cracked, slightly, but enough. He stepped closer to the table, too close. You don't mean that, he said. You're just trying to make a point. No, I said, I moved on. I didn't want you to move on, he snapped. The entire restaurant seemed to go quieter. Not silent, just aware. And there it was again, that truth he couldn't stop revealing. I felt Daniel's hand brush lightly against mine under the table. Not possessive, not performative, just grounding. Evan saw it. Something in his expression twisted. You think this is real? He said to Daniel. You think she's over me? We had 3 years together. Daniel didn't flinch. Then you shouldn't have thrown it away. That was it. That was the line. Evan lunged, not violently, but impulsively, reaching for my phone on the table as I picked it up. I'm calling the police, I said. His hand hit mine. The phone slipped. In the same motion, his arm knocked into the wine glass beside it. Red liquid exploded across the table. Daniel's sleeve, the white tablecloth. Gasps, chairs shifting. The moment shattered. A manager appeared almost instantly. Sir, you need to step away. I'm not going anywhere, Evan shot back. This is my girlfriend. Ex, I corrected again, standing now, and he's been stalking me. The word landed hard and final. The manager's tone changed immediately. Sir, if you don't leave, we will call the police. Do it, I said. Evan turned to me, something desperate flickering in his eyes. Naomi, don't do this. I held his gaze. You did this. That was all I said, but it was enough. 10 minutes later, the police arrived. They took statements from me, Daniel, the manager, even other diners who had seen everything. Evan tried to explain it away. Misunderstanding, emotional situation, history, but the evidence was right there. Spilled wine, witnesses, a clear refusal to leave. They didn't arrest him, but they issued a formal trespass warning for the restaurant and told him to stay away from me. As they escorted him out, he turned back one last time. This isn't over, he said. We're meant to be together. I didn't respond. By then, that sentence meant nothing. When the door closed behind him, the restaurant slowly exhaled. Conversations resumed. Glasses were replaced. The world stitched itself back together. Daniel looked down at his sleeve, soaked in red wine, then back at me. Well, he said lightly, that's one way to make a first date memorable. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. I'm so sorry. He shook his head. Not your fault. And the way he said it, simple, clear, no blame, did something to me. We ended up leaving early and grabbing pizza instead, sitting on a curb outside like two normal people salvaging a night that had been anything but normal. The conversation wasn't the same. But it wasn't ruined either. Before he left, he paused. You should file for a restraining order, he said. I know. He nodded, then leaned in and kissed me. Soft, brief, real. Call me when this is handled, he added. That was it. No drama, no pressure, no expectation, just respect. The next morning, I filed for an emergency protective order. Court date scheduled for the following week. For the first time since Evan came back, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was choosing to walk away for good. For real. Court day arrived without drama. No rain. No cinematic tension. Just a gray morning and a quiet certainty sitting in my chest. I didn't feel nervous. I didn't feel angry. I felt prepared. Anthony, my friend and now unofficial legal backup, met me outside the courthouse with coffee and a look that said he had already reviewed everything twice. You ready? He asked. Yes. And I meant it, because by then this wasn't about Evan anymore. It was about boundaries. Inside, the courtroom was smaller than I expected. Less intimidating, more procedural. It didn't feel like a grand emotional showdown. It felt like a place where facts were sorted from excuses. Evan was already there, sitting beside his mother. He looked different again. Gone was the desperate energy from the restaurant. Gone was the edge. Now he looked composed, controlled, dressed in a simple button-down, neutral colors, hair neatly styled. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed the version of him he was trying to present. His mother glanced at me, eyes sharp, lips pressed thin. Evan didn't look at me at first, but when he did, there was something there. Not love, not regret. Expectation. Like he still believed this could turn. Like this was only another step before I came back. That illusion didn't last long. When the judge entered, everything shifted. The room stood, sat, then it began. The evidence spoke first. Texts, voicemails, call logs, screenshots, dates, times. Each piece laid out clearly, methodically. Not emotional, not exaggerated, just undeniable. The judge flipped through the file slowly. Ms. Carter, she said, glancing up briefly, you've documented quite thoroughly. I had to, I replied. A small nod. Then her attention shifted to the respondent. Evan's lawyer, if he could even be called that, stepped forward quickly. Your Honor, this is a misunderstanding between two former partners. Emotions are high, and my client simply wishes for closure after a meaningful relationship ended abruptly. I didn't react. I had expected that. Minimize, soften, reframe. But the judge didn't look convinced. Did you review the submitted evidence? She asked. Yes, Your Honor, but specifically, she continued, flipping a page, the voicemail in which your client states, I know you're home. I can see your light on. Silence. Even his lawyer hesitated. Yes, that. And the documented instances of appearing at her workplace, residence, and social locations uninvited? Another pause. Then, my client was attempting reconciliation. The judge leaned back slightly. Counselor, she said evenly, this is not reconciliation. This is a pattern. And just like that, the tone changed. Evan shifted beside his mother. For the first time, I saw uncertainty flicker across his face. Then, against what was clearly his lawyer's advice, he spoke. Your Honor, may I say something? The judge considered him briefly. Go ahead. He stood. For a moment, he looked exactly like the boy I had once loved. Not the man who had shown up at my job, not the one in the restaurant, just him. We had 3 years together, he said. 3 good years. I made a mistake. I asked for space because I thought I needed it. I thought I needed to figure myself out. His voice softened. I didn't mean to hurt her. I didn't think it would end like this. The room stayed quiet. I realized I was wrong, he continued. I tried to fix it. I tried to talk to her, to explain, but she shut me out completely. I just wanted another chance. Another chance. I almost smiled. Because even here, even now, he was still telling the same story. The one where his realization should have changed my decision. The one where my refusal was the problem. The judge closed the file. Mr. Patterson, she said calmly, did you end the relationship? Yes, but... Did you do so in order to explore your options? He hesitated. Yes. And did Ms. Carter make it clear at that time that the relationship would be permanently over if you did so? Silence. She was upset. That is not what I asked. A longer pause. Yes. The judge nodded once. So you made a decision, knowing the consequence. He opened his mouth, then closed it. She continued. Ms. Carter moved on. You did not accept that. Instead, you engaged in repeated, unwanted contact, including appearing at her workplace, residence, and a public establishment where she was on a date. That wasn't, he started. And, she added, voice sharper now, physical interference resulting in property damage. His shoulders dropped slightly. I didn't mean... Intent does not erase pattern. Silence fell again. He looked smaller now, not because he had changed, but because the room no longer bent around his narrative. I just wanted her back, he said quietly. The judge's expression didn't soften. Wanting something does not entitle you to it. That line landed harder than anything else, because it wasn't only about the case. It was about everything. She turned slightly, reviewing the final page. Given the documented behavior, the court finds sufficient grounds for a protective order. My heartbeat stayed steady. No spike, no rush, only confirmation. A 2-year no-contact order will be issued, she continued. The respondent is to maintain a distance of no less than 500 feet from Ms. Carter at all times. Evan's mother inhaled sharply beside him. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He didn't argue. He just stood there, finally out of options. As the session ended, the room shifted again. People stood, chairs moved, papers gathered, reality resumed. Outside, in the parking lot, I thought it was over. I was wrong. Are you happy now? His mother's voice cut through the air behind me. I turned. She was standing there, eyes blazing. You've humiliated him, she said. Destroyed his reputation over one mistake. Anthony stepped slightly forward beside me, but I didn't need him to speak. He made choices, I said calmly. I responded to them. He loved you. I held her gaze. No, he loved having access to me on his own terms. Her mouth tightened. You'll regret this, she snapped. You'll end up alone with that attitude. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because it was predictable. Anthony stepped in then. Ma'am, he said evenly, any further contact may be considered a violation of the order. She glared at both of us, then turned and walked away. No resolution, no apology. Only distance. And for the first time since this began, distance was enough. The aftermath was quieter than I expected. No dramatic closure, no final confrontation. Only consequences unfolding in real time. Within 2 weeks, I heard through mutual contacts that Evan had lost his job. Not because of me, because of him. Showing up late, missing days, distracted, unstable. The kind of behavior that doesn't go unnoticed when you're no longer the charming guy everyone gives the benefit of the doubt to. Actions have a way of catching up when there's nothing left to hide behind. His social media changed too. The party photos disappeared, the club nights, the living my best life captions. They were replaced with vague quotes about healing, losing people, being misunderstood, surviving narcissistic abuse. I saw exactly one screenshot. That was enough, because it confirmed something I already knew. He hadn't changed. He had only changed tactics. A month later, Tessa reached out again, not directly, but through a mutual friend. "Evan's in therapy now," the message said. "He realizes he messed up. He's really working on himself. Maybe in a year or two, you could reconsider?" I read it once, then put my phone down. There was a time, months earlier, when that message would have shaken me, made me pause, made me question. But not anymore. I picked up my phone again and replied, "No." One word, no explanation, no softening. Because I wasn't rejecting growth. I was rejecting the assumption that his growth required my return. Another message came back. "You're being really cold about this." I stared at it for a second, then typed, "No, I just know my worth now." And that was the end of that. 3 months passed. No calls, no random numbers, no unexpected appearances. The protective order worked, not because it changed him, but because it finally removed his ability to reach me. In that silence, something steadier grew. Not anger, not relief. Clarity. Daniel and I kept seeing each other, slowly, intentionally. No rushing, no promises we weren't ready to make. Just time and consistency. He didn't try to impress me. He didn't try to compete with my past. He just showed up. For the first time, that felt like enough. One night, we were sitting on his balcony, city lights stretched out in front of us, when he said something that stayed with me. "You know," he said casually, "I think I knew you were worth it the moment your ex showed up at that restaurant." I raised an eyebrow. "That's your standard?" He smiled slightly. "No, but it told me something." "What?" "That someone had you and still thought they could do better." He paused. "That's not a reflection of you. That's a reflection of how little they understood what they had." I didn't respond right away. Part of me was still learning how to accept that kind of perspective. Not defensive, not cynical. Clear. My mom still texted me sometimes, usually at night. "Thank God you didn't marry him." At least once a week. It used to make me laugh. Now it just felt true. Looking back, the breakup itself wasn't the worst part. People fall out of love. People grow apart. That happens. What mattered, what defined everything that came after, was how he left. The entitlement. The certainty. The belief that I would still be there when he was done exploring the world. That I would remain unchanged, available, waiting. And when I didn't, when I moved on quietly without asking permission, that's when everything broke. Not the relationship. That had already ended. His illusion. Because he had never really seen me as an equal. Not fully. I was stability, comfort, a future he could delay, something he could set aside without losing access to. And the moment that certainty disappeared, he fell. Not because I pushed him, because he had been standing on something that was never his to stand on in the first place. If he had just told me the truth that night, if he had said, "I don't feel the same anymore," or "I want something different," I would have been hurt, devastated even, but I would have respected it. I would have let him go. What I couldn't accept, what I will never accept, is being treated like a temporary pause in someone else's story, like a place they can return to once they're finished experimenting with the rest of their life. Because I'm not a fallback plan. I'm not a backup. I'm not something you put on hold. And I'm definitely not something you get back just because you decided you're ready now. The funny thing is, that $500 deposit I lost felt like a disaster at the time. Now it feels like the cheapest lesson I've ever paid for. Because it didn't just save me from a bad relationship. It saved me from building a life with someone who never really saw me. And if there's one thing I know for certain now, it's this. When someone shows you exactly how they value you, believe them. Then value yourself enough to walk away, even when they try to come back. Especially then.